For years, Hollywood fans wondered why Rory Calhoun never spoke openly about his relationship with Randolph Scott. And then, late in his life, he finally broke the silence. The truth he shared wasn't dramatic or scandalous, it was something far deeper, something only a man who had lived, fought, and survived could say. Rory Calhoun was born Francis Timothy McCown on August 8, 1922, in Los Angeles, California. His childhood was shaped by the Great Depression, hardship, and instability. He drifted toward trouble early, running afoul of the law as a teenager. By his early 20s, he had spent time in a federal reformatory for auto theft and had even been behind bars for robbery. It was a dark beginning that could have consumed him completely, but instead, it forged the steel that would later define him. When he eventually turned his life around, Calhoun never hid his past. In interviews, he spoke openly about his mistakes, saying those years of struggle gave him the grit and realism that shaped his acting. Hollywood wasn't part of the plan. His transition into film felt like fate. After his release, he worked odd jobs: mechanic, logger, cowboy, living paycheck to paycheck. Then a chance meeting with actor Alan Ladd changed everything. Ladd's wife, talent agent Sue Carroll, saw something magnetic in the tall, broad-shouldered young man with the intense eyes. She signed him, gave him the name Rory Calhoun, and sent him to acting school. The rest happened fast. He made his screen debut in the early 1940s, and quickly landed supporting roles with major studios. His athleticism, deep voice, and rugged good looks made him perfect for westerns. The 1950s became his decade, with films like The Red House, 1947, With a Song in My Heart, 1952, and River of No Return, 1954, where he starred opposite Marilyn Monroe and Robert Mitchum. Audiences loved his quiet confidence. He didn't need to shout or dominate a scene. His charisma was subtle, his presence steady, and people felt it. What set Calhoun apart was his authenticity. Most Hollywood cowboys pretended. Rory was the real thing. He knew how to ride, rope, and survive the elements because he'd lived that life long before he ever saw a camera. When he starred in The Texan from 1958 to 1960, audiences believed every second of it. He wasn't acting a cowboy, he was one. Behind the scenes, Calhoun lived freely, on his own terms. He had a reputation as a gentleman with fans, loyal to friends, but also as a bit of a Hollywood rebel. Columnists loved writing about his romantic escapades, while directors praised his professionalism. He was a contradiction of, but tender, wild yet thoughtful, a combination that made him unforgettable. As the Western era faded in the late 1960s, many stars struggled. Calhoun didn't. He reinvented himself. He moved into television, low-budget films, comedies, and even horror, surprising audiences with roles like Motel Hell in 1980. His willingness to adapt kept him working long after many of his peers had retired. His personal life was just as colorful. He married actress and singer Lita Barron in 1948. They were glamorous, admired, and one of Hollywood's most talked-about couples. Together, they had 3 daughters, Cindy, Tammy, and Lori. But Calhoun's charm, career pressures, and constant gossip took a toll. Rumors linked him to several co-stars, and whether true or exaggerated, they deeply affected his home life. By the late 1960s, the cracks were impossible to ignore. In 1969, Lita publicly cited his infidelities as the reason for their split. Their marriage ended in 1970, after more than 2 decades together. In 1971, Calhoun married British journalist Sue Rhodes. Their relationship was calmer, more private. Friends said Sue brought balance into his world. But even their marriage faced difficulties, and they divorced in time apart, however, changed everything. The bond they shared never faded, and in 1982, in a story straight from a Hollywood script, they remarried. Their second marriage was peaceful, built on companionship, understanding, and forgiveness. Then came the part of his story people always wondered about: his true feelings toward Randolph Scott. 2 Western legends. 2 leading men. 2 symbols of rugged masculinity. Fans imagined rivalry, competition, even resentment. But in one rare sincere interview, Calhoun revealed the truth. Randolph Scott, he said, was a man impossible not to admire. He carried himself with a quiet dignity, like he had been born in the saddle. Even off camera, he moved with that same cowboy grace most actors only pretended to have. His calm confidence influenced everyone around him. He didn't brag, he didn't shout, he didn't demand respect. He earned it the moment he stepped into a room. Calhoun admitted he envied him. Both tall, both leading men, both fighting for space, in a genre that only had room for a few stars at the top. Scott made it all look effortless. "I'd be breaking my back trying to prove myself," Calhoun said with a laugh, and Randolph would stand there, tip his hat, say 3 words, and steal the whole damn scene. But there was never bitterness, only admiration. Scott wasn't the type to play dirty. He treated everyone from producers to extras with equal respect. That humility shaped Calhoun. It taught him the kind of man he wanted to be, in an industry that could easily corrupt anyone. He admired Scott off-screen even more. Scott lived quietly, far from Hollywood noise, choosing his ranch over premieres and parties. A man who didn't need applause, that kind of self-assured simplicity impressed Calhoun deeply. Maybe that's why audiences trusted him. He said, he wasn't selling an image, he was the image. Scott once gave Calhoun a piece of advice he never forgot. Don't ever chase fame, it runs faster than any horse, and if you catch it, it'll buck you off. Calhoun admitted he paid the price every time he ignored that wisdom. He also wished he had been closer to Scott. I always wanted to tell him how much he influenced me, he said softly. But back then, cowboy to cowboy, we were too damn proud. He paused. I think he knew, though I think he always knew. Looking back on his own career, Calhoun said every actor who ever wore a cowboy hat owed something to Randolph Scott. Scott set the standard. Calhoun, he said, just tried to ride somewhere close behind. Rory Calhoun passed away on April 28, 1999, at age 76, after years battling emphysema and diabetes. His rugged lifestyle, smoking long shoots in brutal sun, the hard living typical of his generation, took its toll. Even in failing health, he kept his humor, dignity, and warmth. He remained the same man fans adored, tough, graceful, and endlessly authentic.